Today I want to Today I want to get into something that I think a lot of people in long-term relationships are feeling but maybe haven't found the words for yet. And that thing is resentment. Not the explosive kind where you're screaming at each other and throwing plates or something. I'm talking about the slow, quiet kind. I'm going to talk about my own experience, my actual life, because I think that's more valuable than me just reciting some sort of research at you. So this stuff is real, and if any of it hits close to home for you, I want you to know you're not alone and you're not crazy. So let me take you back to college, which is supposed to be this formative experience in life, right? You're figuring out who you are, you're meeting people, you're doing dumb stuff and learning from it. And during that time, I was in a serious relationship. And most weekends, I was making a drive to go visit her where she was going to college. And look, I was totally in love. I'm not saying that I wasn't, but there's a version of my college experience that I never really got to have. And I didn't really grieve that at the time. I just sort of accepted it. I told myself that's what you do when you love somebody. You show up and make sacrifices. And although I think that's true, that sacrifice is part of love, but here's what nobody tells you. Sacrifice that goes unacknowledged or that you make silently without ever really processing doesn't disappear, it just goes underground. And underground is exactly where resentment lives. Fast forward to graduation, I had worked really hard, the kind of work that most of my peers weren't putting in, and it paid off for me. I got some real opportunities. I got offered a job that was aligned with my actual goals, the kind of thing you grind for 4 years, hoping that it will materialize. And it did, but ultimately I passed on it. And that's because my partner was going back to school for another degree, and I felt like I needed to be available. So instead of stepping into something that could have been a launching pad for my career, I took jobs that I was way overqualified for. You know, the jobs that kept me comfortable enough to stay but never challenged me or took me anywhere. And again, I didn't really blow up about it. I just absorbed it. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself that the right time would come, but the right time kept getting pushed back, and somewhere in the back of my mind, a little voice started keeping score, and I didn't invite that voice in. It just kind of moved on its own. Eventually, an opportunity came around that felt right for me, finally, and I went for it. And I was good at it. I was engaged in a way that I hadn't been professionally, but it came with conditions, not from the job, but from the relationship, because I had to move. And the message I got was, if you want me in your life, I need more of a commitment than you're giving me right now. So I walked away. Now, to be fair, relationships require commitment. That's real. But there's a difference between someone asking you to be more present in the relationship and someone asking you to abandon something that's genuinely important to your identity and your future. Those are very different conversations, and I don't think we ever really had the right one. Fast forward, we eventually reconnected. I came back from where I was, and I genuinely tried to rebuild not just the relationship, but my personal approach to everything. I rethought my career path. I tried to build something that worked for both of us, for a future family, and I did it. We had a good life. I had the best job I'd ever had, something that I was super proud of, something that made sense and was sustainable. But eventually I was told that it wasn't enough, or at least that's the message that I received. And also that I wasn't considering my partner's heart and that we needed to move and leave the situation. So we left. That relocation broke something in me that I'm still trying to figure out, because it wasn't just about the city or a house or a commute. It was about my control over the situation, or the complete loss of it. Every single sacrifice I had made up to that point, every weekend, every job I didn't take, every opportunity I let go, it all suddenly felt like it had been pointed towards building something, and then we just bulldozed it, and I didn't really have a for real vote in the whole situation. I know how that sounds. I know relationships aren't dictatorships and compromise is supposed to go both ways. But when you're the one who has been compromising for years and the score never feels like it evens out, then the biggest decision of your shared life gets made and you feel like a passenger in your own story. That's no longer compromise, that's something different. Anyway, after we moved, I couldn't go anywhere or see anything or have a conversation without thinking, this would have been better before. Everything is a reminder. The apartment size, the lack of friends, it all just kept whispering the same thing, that I gave up something real and am not getting it back. And then, and this is the part that is really crazy, I started feeling that the person I had been making all of these adjustments for had changed like completely. The values that I thought that I shared with my partner, the future I thought we were building toward, the person I thought I knew, it was like I was finding out the rules of the game had been rewritten somewhere along the way and I just hadn't been told. And some of what I was being asked to accept, to just go along with, it didn't align with who I am at all. I had a choice: speak up and risk blowing everything up, or just swallow it and keep going. And like usual, I swallowed it up again. And that right there, that moment, that's where the resentment stopped being quiet background noise and started being something that I actually had to deal with. So here's where I land after all of that. We're in it now, the messy, uncomfortable, necessary work of actually looking at all of this and trying to figure out what to do with it. And it is really hard. It's probably the hardest thing I've ever done, because it requires me to be honest about my role in all of this. The ways I made myself small without being asked to, the ways I kept the score instead of having the conversation, the ways I said yes when I meant no and then resented the person who didn't even know I meant no. Resentment doesn't just come from what other people do to us. A lot of it comes from what we allow, what we don't say, what we keep burying because we think love means never making the person you care about uncomfortable. The truth is, that's not love. That's fear dressed up as love, and that's what I've been living for a long time. If any of this is familiar to you, and if you recognize yourself somewhere in this particular story, I just want you to hear this, that the resentment isn't proof that your relationship is broken beyond repair. It's just information. It's telling you something has to change. And the first step is just being honest enough to look directly instead. And the first step is just being honest enough to look at it directly instead of letting it keep living in the dark. That's what I'm trying to do. And I figured out that's what I'm trying to do. And I figured maybe some of you are trying to do the same thing.